Welcome to our channel. Today, we're diving into the incredible story of one of the most revolutionary machines in Soviet military history, a tank T-64, known as a Soviet monster that was truly ahead of its time. This beast of steel didn't just change the way tanks were built, it changed the way wars could be fought. The T-64 first rolled out in the early 1960s, and right from the start, it stunned the world. Unlike the heavy, clunky designs of previous generations, this tank brought together cutting-edge technology, powerful firepower, and unmatched armor in a single platform. At a time when most tanks were bulky and slow, the T-64 introduced something the battlefield had never seen before: true innovation in mobility and protection. Designed by the legendary Alexander Morozov, the same man behind the T-34 and T-54, the T-64 was built at the Kharkiv-Morozov Machine Building Design Bureau in Ukraine, which was then part of the Soviet Union. What made this tank unique was not just one feature, it was a perfect combination of several radical innovations. For starters, the T-64 was the first production tank in the world to feature a composite armor. This was a game changer. Instead of relying purely on steel, Soviet engineers used layers of metal and ceramic to create armor that could withstand modern anti-tank weapons. This gave the T-64 incredible survivability without adding extra weight, keeping it agile on the battlefield. Another key innovation was the autoloader. Until then, most tanks needed 4 crew members, including a loader. But the T-64 cut that number to just 3 by automating the loading process. This not only reduced manpower requirements, but also made the tank's profile smaller, making it a harder target to hit. And that was just the beginning. Under the hood, the T-64 was powered by a revolutionary opposed piston 5 TDF engine, which was compact yet incredibly powerful. Although it was notoriously difficult to maintain, its design gave the tank high power-to-weight ratio and made it very mobile for its class. While NATO tanks still relied on older engine concepts, the Soviets were already years ahead with this daring leap. Let's not forget firepower. The T-64 came armed with a 125mm smoothbore gun, one of the most powerful tank cannons of its time. It could fire armor-piercing and high-explosive rounds with deadly accuracy, and later versions even introduced the ability to fire anti-tank guided missiles directly from the barrel. This meant the T-64 could hit both tanks and helicopters, giving it multi-role capabilities long before others caught on. The tank's advanced fire control system, gun stabilizer, and infrared night vision made it even more effective in all types of combat conditions. Western tanks simply didn't have this level of technology in the 1960s. The T-64 was like a spacecraft. Among horses, it was far ahead of anything in NATO's arsenal at the time. However, the T-64 wasn't without controversy. Its complexity made it difficult to mass-produce, and some Soviet officials argued it was too advanced and expensive. As a result, while the T-64 served as the technological base for future tanks like the T-72 and T-80, it was not widely exported and was kept mainly for elite Soviet units. It became the core of the Soviet Union's armored forces, especially in Europe, where it was expected to counter NATO's best in case of war. Over time, various upgrades were introduced. The T-64A brought improved fire control and turret protection. The T-64B came with better electronics and missile firing capabilities. The final variant, the T-64BV, added explosive reactive armor to counter modern threats like tandem charge warheads. Even today, decades after its creation, many of these tanks are still in use, particularly in Ukraine, where modernized versions have seen combat in recent conflicts. What makes the T-64 even more remarkable is its influence. It directly led to the development of the T-72, a cheaper, more mass-producible version that became one of the most exported tanks in history. The T-80, another Soviet marvel, also owes its origins to the T-64's groundbreaking design. In a way, the T-64 was like the prototype of the future, a secret masterpiece that quietly shaped global tank warfare. Even military analysts from NATO admitted that the T-64 made them rethink their doctrines. It forced the West to accelerate the development of new tank platforms like the Leopard 2 and M1 Abrams, both of which appeared nearly a decade after the T-64. That's the level of disruption this Soviet monster caused. In conclusion, the T-64 wasn't just a tank. It was a symbol of Soviet ambition, engineering brilliance, and strategic foresight. It may not have had the fame of the T-34 or the export numbers of the T-72, but in terms of technological impact, it was light years ahead. It stood as a reminder that sometimes being ahead of your time means not being fully understood until history catches up. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the T-64, make sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories from the Iron Giants of military history.